he blames InfoWars for the coming censorship instead of blaming the Atlantic Council, or instead of blaming DARPA, or instead of blaming, the LifeLog, which they renamed Facebook. Oh, don't look at those connections. Don't look at that at all, Matt Tiabi. And as a matter of fact, don't even bother. Don't bother to look at how and why we've got YouTube and Google and the internet created by DARPA. It was a psychiatrist that was working at DARPA that came up with the idea for the intergalactic computer network that we call the internet. Yeah, it was a tool of psychological control from the beginning. Maybe you don't understand that because you can't even be bothered to do enough research to look at the videos. You just pass along the defamation charges. Absolutely amazing. Welcome back. I'm David Knight. We're going to be joined in the next segment by a man convicted for hacking a hospital computer network. Well, that sounds pretty serious, doesn't it? Except that what he was doing was not endangering any lives. He hacked in, if in fact he did this, he's been convicted of it. He wanted to bring attention to the medical kidnapping of a young woman who was severely damaged by a hospital. The parents could not get her out of there. She had a real medical condition. They diagnosed it as a psychological condition. So he hacked their fundraiser. And for that, he is now facing multiple years in prison. We're going to be talking to him coming up in the next segment. But to continue with what Alex Jones was talking about in terms of the way that this is all going down, it's kind of interesting to see how there's kind of a circular defamation that's going on here. And I was really disappointed in Matt Tiabi of Rolling Stones. He's done some excellent journalism in the past. I thought this was a real hit piece. At first, I thought he was on to something, but then he went off the rails. The title of the article was "Beware the Slippery Slope of Facebook Censorship." Yes, that's right. And as he gets to it at the very end, he says, when Facebook works with the government and with wannabe star chamber organizations like the Atlantic Council to delete sites on national security grounds or using secret methodology, it opens the door to nightmare possibilities that you'll only find in dystopian novels. Well, he's absolutely right about that. And he talks about the organization, this Atlantic Council. This is a group that was helped with this. Get that clip of Michael Hayden. Well, no, I don't think we have time for it. This is a short segment. But he's who's on the Atlantic Council that's helping Facebook? And, of course, they're also being helped by the Southern Poverty Law Center, who encouraged a man to grab a gun and try to go in the Family Research Council and kill people because he was told by the Southern Poverty Law Center that if you believed in traditional marriage that has been defined by all societies throughout civilization and history, but also held still by Christians, that if you believe that marriage is between one man and one woman, that is hateful speech. And so he went there to kill people because he was sent there by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Yet the Southern Poverty Law Center doesn't get any criticism. As a matter of fact, they're still being used by the FBI. So what is this Atlantic Council? It's got people like Henry Kissinger. It's got former CIA chief Michael Hayden. Of course, he was also the NSA chief. Matt forgot that. Here's what he had to say about why they're really spying on everybody. Here's Michael Hayden.
This is not about guilt. In fact, let me be really clear, okay? NSA doesn't just listen to bad people. NSA listens to interesting people.
Oh, yeah, isn't that right? Isn't that cool? The lawyers that he's talking to, they're the prospective lawyers at Washington and Lee University. Thought that was funny. Yeah, we're not interested in bad people. We're interested in interesting people, like President Trump or like Alex Jones, InfoWars. We want to shut them down. And so even Matt Tiabi is looking at this and goes, you got people like Henry Kissinger, people like that guy, Michael Hayden, former, acting CIA head Michael Morale at the time, a former Bush-era Homeland Security chief, Michael Chertoff, the guy who was behind all the scanners and so forth, and all that scam with the underwear bomber. Anyway, he points out 70% of Americans get their news from just two sources, Facebook and Google. That's a point where they can control the narrative, where they can nudge people. That's why he wants to know. You may not be interesting to Michael Hayden as an individual, but you are interesting to him as a collective group. They want to know if their narrative is working, and they want to choke it off if it isn't working. And so he goes, so that brings us over to InfoWars lunatic Alex Jones. And he goes on to defame Alex Jones by saying things like, Jones had 4 videos removed from YouTube and his Facebook page, and he was banned and so forth and so on. But he found a way to get around it more or less instantly. You know what, Matt? You're a better journalist than this. Why don't you bother to even look at these videos to see if there was anything there, to see if it was reasonable or not? No, you just want to defame Alex Jones. You don't care if there were lies spread. You don't care if the Washington Post or the New York Times are lying about Alex. You reference those without doing any research of your own, and then you wring your hands over it. You know what? We have to really be concerned when the journalists are begging for censorship, this Matt Taibbi story. One of the things that bothered me so much about that, as I said, is the fact that he would do the sloppy job. This is what he had to say, InfoWars lunatic Alex Jones had 4 videos removed from YouTube. Well, Matt, why don't you look at those videos? You can see them. We've got them at InfoWars. Just because they're not on YouTube doesn't mean that you can't see these things. But you're going to take the word of YouTube, and you're going to take the word of the New York Times and Washington Post, even though they would be lying about Alex, because he references back to a New York Times story where they say the videos removed included one called Prevent Liberalism, in which a man chokes a child and throws him to the ground. That is the most ridiculous representation. Well, it's the second most ridiculous representation of that video. There's a kid reported that he had been keying cars or whatever, but he's basically hitting on this man. The man tries to get up, and the kid's pushing and shoving him. Finally, the guy just turns around and shoves him to the ground. And the kid, it's not anything very violent against the kid. The kid was hitting him and pushing him, wouldn't go away. And this goes on for quite some time. Finally, he shoves him to the ground. The kid just collapses and whines. And it's like, it's a snowflake video. It's a nothing video, really, quite frankly. But it's not a man choking a child and throwing him to the ground. And yet, the most ridiculous story of that is Forbes magazine. Forbes said Alex Jones was the man. What are we going to do when the software to make fake videos becomes very easy, where you can put somebody's face? It's obviously not Alex. It doesn't look anything at all like Alex. And yet he's having to now defend himself against charges of child endangerment, having to defend himself against his ex-wife who's using this fake news from Forbes magazine, from YouTube, from the New York Times, from Matt Taibbi at Rolling Stone, all of them making false accusations that it was Alex Jones who did this stuff. And it was a video of a man choking a child and throwing him to the ground. I was like, why would we put that up if that were the case? Another one, shock report, learn how Islam has already conquered Europe. Well, look at the videos and see if you don't think that Islam has already conquered Europe. I mean, can we have that discussion? Oh, we're not allowed to have that discussion. We use the word Islam. Shut us down. Because you hate. Well, we have gone so far away from the fundamental values that we have come to uphold in Western civilization that even if we disagree with what you have to say, we will defend it to the death. That is the thing that really concerns me. It isn't what's being done by these self-interested media moguls, the sloppy journalists like Matt Taibbi, who are slandering and defaming people. That's not what bothers me. It's the fact that as a society, we now despise the idea of free speech, because free speech means that you uphold the free speech of people that you don't agree with, because other people who don't agree with you are going to censor you. But now we're all begging the government, begging these guardians of information that have been created by the government. And that was where he basically gets. But he blames InfoWars for the coming censorship instead of blaming the Atlantic Council, or instead of blaming DARPA, or instead of blaming, the LifeLog, which they renamed Facebook. Oh, don't look at those connections. Don't look at that at all, Matt Taibbi. And as a matter of fact, don't even bother. Don't bother to look at how and why we've got YouTube and Google and the internet created by DARPA. It was a psychiatrist that was working at DARPA that came up with the idea for the intergalactic computer network that we call the internet. Yeah, it was a tool of psychological control from the beginning. Maybe you don't understand that because you can't even be bothered to do enough research to look at the videos. You just pass along the defamation charges. Absolutely amazing.
Someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
President Trump talks about how we need to be trailblazers, how we need to be outsiders, how we need to expose the current stagnant system that's been suppressing us, wanting to make us poor so he can consolidate control and buy us up for pennies on the dollar. That really is the globalist system. And he's absolutely right. So it is an honor to be persecuted by the globalists, and to be lied about and to be demonized. But it's an honor to draw them out so we can show who they are, so that you take action and you take the country back politically, culturally, spiritually, financially. Another hero is Julian Assange, who's been in solitary confinement in a closet-sized room. They converted a closet with a bed and enough room for a laptop. They took that away over a year ago. No communication with the outside. It's all been one hell of a time for him, and he was very bipartisan in that he exposed Republicans, he exposed Democrats. He very judiciously released information that exposed criminal activity of the NSA, criminal activity of the CIA, illegal spying on Congress, illegal spying on Trump, illegal spying on me. But they had my home number, my old cell, my new cell, and my office line. And they had Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago private apartment number that I had. Total proof of Obama spying on Trump and yours truly a decade ago. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the real deal. And America's had freedom so long, people don't recognize real tyranny when it hits them right between the eyes. But everyone needs to go to Infowars.com. The article is right up there at the top of the page, red link. Petition to Trump, pardon Julian Assange. And we go over the fact that he engaged in regular journalistic activity and did a wonderful job being advised by top journalism professors around the world, and that he was very, very fair about what he did, and that you need to send the message that he's a hero. Now, I know they claim he's a Russian agent with no evidence and all the rest of that garbage, even though they've released stuff on Russia and Israel as well, and China. But it doesn't matter. It's the right thing to do. And you wouldn't have gotten elected without Drudge. You wouldn't have gotten elected without what you've done, obviously. You can't say it's any one person, but without any of us together, it wouldn't have happened. So we need the president to pardon Julian Assange. And you said in a speech, I don't care who got her illegal server. It's illegal. It's about what she did that's wrong. Don't change the subject. Go back to that instinct, sir. But you told Assange, release it. You said release more stuff. And he's in the crosshairs. And he needs to be pardoned if he's brought back to the United States. Look at that. Everybody else is just like yellow or clear. That's because it's been denatured, it's been watered down. We didn't do that. You think I would metaphysically sell you something that this is the very best I can get? I'd rather go to hell than do that. I will only give you the maximum best info, the maximum truth, the maximum product, because I want that goodwill. What I do to you, I do to myself. Don't you get the big secret? You ever seen fish oil look like that? No, you never seen that, have you? And this little jewel right here is solid, liquid consciousness. Look it up. Find out how even the FDA and the government admits fish oil is incredible. The number one thing anybody can do for themselves is take good fish oil or krill oil. Just like our information is dynamite, so are our products, InfoWarsStore.com.